Hey there, everyone. Looks like we are live. I'm going to double check on Facebook itself to make sure we show up. So I know the one time I don't check will be the one time we don't show live. There's my face. Looks like we are now out there. So, hey there. I'm Jason Loxton, and this is Exploring Sous Vide. We're all about helping you get the most out of your sous vide machine while talking to some of the biggest names in the industry. Today's sponsor is the ISVA. Surprise, surprise. We never have them sponsor us. Um, Specifically this week, though, is the Infusions Showcase. From tea and coffee to flavored vinegars and oils, and even many traditional sodas, infusions are a part of our daily lives. Now they are becoming more prevalent as many talented chefs and bartenders are creating custom infusions for use in food and cocktails. So join six talented cooks on October 10th as they explore sous vide infusions and demo delicious recipes, including a cinnamon smoked Carmen Miranda cocktail with banana infused bourbon from Chef David Petranzik, and a pear frangipane tart with hibiscus ginger infused vodka from today's special guest, as well as many more. Should be a great time, and you don't want to miss it. Plus, it is free. Speaking of Tiago, he just said, hey, in the comments, if you're joining us, say hello, say what you're most excited to be cooking this weekend using sous vide, and join us at the isva.net/infusions showcase for all of your infusions information. Should be a great time. And like I said, it is free. So on to the show. Sous vide is not just for savory foods. There is a lot of uses, including desserts, infusions, and vegetables. And today's guest is the perfect person to help us all expand our horizons. She is a multi-award winning home chef, mother, grandmother, and retired physician assistant, entering and winning cooking contests since 1990. Her recipes are well published in nationally known magazines, cookbooks, and online publications, representing multiple brands. She has won everything from cash to a Harley Davidson motorcycle and a most memorable food tour in France. She has competed in the World Fair Championships for 6 years, is a certified food champ judge and Steak Association cook-off judge. She's also a food blogger and TEDx speaker. 3 years after the death of her son, a U.S. Navy corpsman, she began a public grief journey, becoming a Food Network Chop champion on the 2014 Mother's Day episode. Her inspiring food blog, Good Grief Cook, followed and continues to nurture her philosophy that preparing and sharing food with others is an extension of one's heart and one's soul. I can't wait to learn from today's guest, Lisa Keys from Good Grief Cook. Lisa, welcome to Exploring Sous Vide.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me. It's a
Have a
beautiful day today, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We have a few people in the audience joining us. Tiago says, Lisa.
I love Tiago. He's happy engagement.
Yes, happy engagement, Tiago. We love seeing the video you posted, and it's so exciting. We got my mom always moderating the comments, trying to keep the riffraff in line, saying hi from Philly.
We're neighbors practically.
Where are you located again?
I'm in Kennett Square, so we're only 25 miles apart, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're currently in the King of Prussia area while their house is being finalized. They're in an apartment complex.
Oh, nice.
We have Cheryl saying hi, also from Philly. How's it going, Cheryl?
Philly food gal. My good fans are here. Yay.
They're all tuning in. This is great. So I want to dive into all the amazing things that you do, because I'm especially excited about some of the desserts you make, because I don't do a lot of desserts and my wife gives me a hard time about that. But before we get started, I always like to ask, what is it like around your dinner table on a typical day?
Oh, typical day. Well, 99% of the time on a typical day, it's just my husband and I, and we do sit down to dinner every night. We usually cook together. He is a very good cook. And so typical night is, us sitting together. And on that other 1%, my daughter and son-in-law and my grandchildren might be here. They live about an hour away, so we see them pretty often. And so that's more of a big deal when we have everybody like that gathered for dinner. But
What's
especially
your
so
what's your go-to everyone's coming in meal that you like to prepare?
everyone's coming in. Well, let's see. Everybody loves sausage and peppers, so I love to make that super easy for a crowd. Um, Usually something Italian because that's my background. I make a lot of pasta and that kind of thing. So not always sous vide, but my son-in-law is a big steak lover. So when he's here, there's probably steak on the menu.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we allow non-sous vide discussion every once in a while on this show. We're not, we're not exclusive.
Good. That's good. Because it's not all that I do. I'm the great imposter with sous vide, I think. I'm
No.
still learning. It's been a really fun learning experience.
That was one of my favorite things about starting the ISVA is that I am still learning so much because I meet people that know so much more than I do about all aspects of it every time I do one of these interviews, which I love.
And they're the most generous people I've met. I'm just thrilled with, there's lots of famous people in the ISVA and they'll talk to you. It's really fantastic. So,
I was surprised too. Yeah, so many gracious people. It's been fun getting to know a lot of them.
yeah.
We have a few other people in the comments saying hi. We have Rebecca Evans saying hey from Texas.
It's my sister from another mother.
And we have Tracy Matino.
Well, my sister-in-law.
Nice. ISVA is a family affair. We have a nice shot of the first live event with Mike holding his screaming child in one hand as he's talking to some of the, I think there's Gerard from from Crea.
Family first, right? Family
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
So a lot of people make sous vide desserts in jars, but you were one of the few people I know that has branched out. So I want to talk about this chocolate layer cake that you have put together. This thing looks amazing. Can you step us through a little bit of what goes into this thing?
Sure. So the reason why I initially developed this chocolate layer cake recipe was to be able to bake it outside. I was going to a competition which was going to take place outside. I wouldn't have an oven. And so I created this cake that I could steam, basically, put it in a pan over, like in a bain-marie type situation. And it turned out really, really good. The one thing that I noticed about steaming the cake was that it was cooked all the way through without having those crusty edges. So usually with a cake, when you bake it in the oven, you have all these crusty edges and it might rise higher in the middle and you have to level it. Well, when I baked it that way, it just came out perfectly level and without all the crusty edges that normally have to be trimmed away. And I thought that, well, this is kind of fascinating. And I wondered, could it be done sous vide? Which again is that sort of temperature controlled water bath, just sort of reminded me of a similar process. And of course, the tricky thing with sous vide is getting the air out of the and so I had to play with that a little bit. And then also the size of the pan. I just started with a 6-inch cake pan, which for a family of 2 to 4 people, to me, is plenty of cake. I don't need to make organic cake.
My dad would disagree with that comment.
And a large a Ziploc bag, like a gallon Ziploc bag. And it turned out that 6-inch pan just fit perfectly inside the Ziploc bag. And I could just, get the cake batter in there and compress the air out. And I'm going, well, how am I going to do that without smashing the cake batter and all of that? Well, the solution was just putting a small heat-proof plate over the pan. And then I was able to, squish down on it and put it in that water bath. And I decided that I looked up simmering water, like what is the temperature of that? And boiling water is about 212. Poaching something is about 180. So that simmer was kind of somewhere in between, and I just chose 198 out of the hat. I kind of went in between those two and decided 90 minutes sounded good to me. Other cakes in the jars took about 3 hours, and I just didn't think I was going to need 3 hours. So I decided 90 minutes, took it out, and I was shocked. I mean, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And popped right out of the pan. And then I didn't have to level it. I didn't have to trim anything, and cut it in half, filled it, and the rest is kind of history. It was freaking delicious. The best chocolate cake I ever made.
You got a lot of comments here of people that just like the picture alone. We have Blanche Shacklefield says, #badass in the kitchen.
Thank you.
Becca Evans says, you are her hero. My mom with the, oh my God comment. And got Lynn with so great mama. And Valeria with looks delicious. So
it's moist, it's super chocolatey, and again, you can sort of vary it. You can add other flavors. A lot of people bake cakes and they have to moisten it with simple syrup because they're dry. You don't need any of that. And the other thing about baking it sous vide is that you can do it consistently the same every single time. That's fantastic. Everybody has different ovens. You have cold spots, you have hot spots. People measure things differently. It's sort of fascinating how you can give 10 people the same recipe and 10 cakes, they all come out differently. And it's because people measure differently, their ovens are different. But with sous vide, everybody's going to have the same. It's going to be perfect.
So it's more moist, it's evenly cooked, there's none of that hard, crunchy edges, and you don't have to worry about hot spots. It sounds pretty perfect once you figured out the sealing.
Yes. Yeah. That's the tricky part is the sealing it, submerging it. I use magnets to hold it into place and getting the air out of the bag. But if you look at the video, I posted the video on my blog, you can see it's pretty simple.
I feel like a lot of things with sous vide, especially holding stuff down, is hard to figure out. And then once you figure it out, it's like, here's how you do it. And then it's easy the second time.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you done any other sous vide cakes, or is that your go-to one?
I've done carrot cake, which came out fantastic. I did an almond cake, also came out great. And now the next thing that I worked on was that pear tart that you mentioned.
That looks fantastic. We'll dive into that in a minute. That's using your infusion, correct, from the upcoming infusion showcase?
Correct.
So we don't want to give away everything. So you need to tune in on Saturday, but you did a infused vodka, which you then used in your tart dough, correct?
I used it in the tart dough, and then I reduced it. What was left, I reduced it into a syrup that then glazed the tart.
Watching your video made me very, very hungry and want something nice and sweet. I might have to go by the pie shop nearby and pick one up as someone that has never made a pie on my own, sadly.
Well, it got good reviews here, so I would definitely do it that way again. And again, the pears come out perfectly because they're sous vide, and we'll talk about that on Saturday.
I don't want to give away too much.
No.
So you've also mentioned that you're a big fan of corn on the cob sous vide. What do you like about using sous vide for that?
I think what I like in general about vegetables sous vide, in particular corn on the cob, which sadly that season is over now. But yeah. I think what sous vide does is it breaks down the starch in the vegetables and converts it into sugar. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the corn tastes more flavorful, more sweet. The nutrients aren't lost into, boiling water. And then again, they're cooked, perfectly. I like mine a little on the crunchy side. I don't like soft corn. So there's something about sous vide and breaking down the starch I think in the in the vegetables and converting it, sort of like roasting in the oven, right? Vegetables just become sweeter and more flavorful that way.
What's your go-to temperature when you do corn?
Oh, goodness. I have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head.
That is allowed. I feel like a few of us know off the top of our heads, then a lot of us don't. It's always fun talking to Dave Petranza because he only knows half of the things off the top of his head, and the other ones he can never remember.
If I can, I'm old now. If I can look it up in a book, I'll just go look it up in a book rather than trying to keep all that stuff in my head.
Need to save the space in the head for important stuff.
What I did a couple weeks ago. So.
So I know you're involved in many national and televised cooking contests. Which was your most memorable?
Well, let's see. I have a lot of fantastic memories over the years. I've been doing this for 30 years, I think. Yeah, I think in this past year was my 30th anniversary of the first contest, national contest ever won, and that was the Pillsbury Bake Off. So I guess you always remember your first. And what I remember most about that was Sally Pillsbury, the matriarch of that family at the time.
I did not know that was a last name.
Yeah, putting her arm around me and saying, "Do you know you are one of the best cooks in America?" And then we went on to sing the song "God Bless America," and that just every time we're a military family, so that just really touched my heart. So that's one of my best memories. And I even got a letter from the White House because my pie at the time, it was called glasnost apple pie, and it was inspired by sort of the walls between Russia and America at the time being broken down. And so I get weird inspirations from weird places when I develop recipes, but that, your first is probably always going to be your most significant memory. And that's really when I was kind of bitten by the bug to keep entering recipe contests. But winning a Harley David motorcycle in a recipe contest, that was cool. And
did you take that out on the open highway?
I never drove it once. I was so afraid of it. I sold it.
I can see it going either way.
Yeah, I sold it to a guy in Long Island. So he came and picked it up. It was great. But so, things like that, I've been very, very fortunate, very lucky. I've won a lot and had a lot of great experiences, and probably the best are just the people, like, with the ISVA, the people you meet and become friends with. And, I have 30 years of memories, great memories, and great friends who I love dearly. And, it's been a good ride for me.
That's awesome. I want to dive a little more into contests, but Tiago posted that he does his corn at 180 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes.
Well, that was the number I had in my head, but I didn't want to say it, 180. So thank you, Tiago, for confirming that.
And then we had Kevin Koo with some commiseration of "It's so true, never have the measurements."
And I love watching Kevin and Carmen. They're probably my favorite YouTube people. They are so much fun to watch and learn from.
They do such inspiring dishes. As someone that grew up in a Midwestern influenced, Italian influenced, household, it's great seeing the type of food that they grew up on and are sharing with us. It's just, it's really expanded my culinary horizons, which I appreciate.
Asian flavors are my favorite, and they do it so well. And their kind of cooking is their YouTube channel.
Yeah, definitely check it out if you are interested in any sort of cooking like that. It's amazing what they do.
It is.
And they're super nice.
Super nice, just like everybody. Yeah.
Did you have any mishaps during any of your cooking shows?
Yes, I had. Well, there's two that kind of stand out in my mind. One was a national beef cook-off in Colorado. And we had to choose a platter to present our dish on. And presentation is kind of a big deal when you're, the difference between winning and losing can be 1 point. So And the dishes, I chose my dish, they wrapped it up, and then they brought it to my station. And I probably had about a minute left to plate because it was timed. And I open up the platter, and it's not the dish I chose. I chose like a big platter to present 4 big steak sandwiches on, and this was like a lunch plate. And so that was kind of a semi-disaster. Then they were trying to quickly grab me another platter, but that was hard. I didn't win. And then the other one, which was super surprising because these things never happen, but I was at a contest in Chicago. It was called the Great One Potluck Supper, and it was hosted by Art Smith, which was cool. And we were cooking at a culinary school in Chicago. The name escapes me, but I made, again, a pie, and I put my pie, it was a Nutella chocolate cream kind of a pie, and I put it in a refrigerator to cool, and I left the kitchen and to go do something else, and came back and somebody had run their finger through my pie.
No.
And so I presented it to the judges, and I just said, you know what? My response to the judges, well, I'm just really flattered that someone thought it was that good that they could, run their finger through it and taste it. And I got first place. So
Nice.
all was not lost. It was a good pie.
It was like a pre-testimonial.
Yeah, but that, sabotage like that extremely rare. Extremely rare.
So you don't need to like set guards. You didn't trade your Harley Davidson that you won for a couple of Hell's Angels to stand by your freezer moving forward.
No, and then the funniest thing, there is one more I should tell you about. The funniest thing is that you sort of never, you're not familiar with equipment, right, outside of your own kitchen. And I was at a Southern Living cook-off, and again, I made this gigantic chocolate peanut butter turtle tort, it was called, and I put it in their refrigerator. What I didn't know is how cold the refrigerator was, and it sat there overnight and it froze.
Oh, no.
And when that was presented to the judges, they tried to cut it and it actually broke a knife. But that didn't win either.
I could see that would be a downside. Once the silverware starts being destroyed, it's probably
the judges just said, that knife broke when we tried to cut your knives. It wasn't supposed to be solid frozen. So
I have enough trouble remembering how to use my own equipment when I'm doing a live video or something, much less trying to figure out someone else's under a time crunch.
So you have to roll with the punches, and I always say, it's just a cooking contest. It's not winning or losing. It's not life or death. It's not chemotherapy. They're fun. When you get the opportunity, I'm just always so grateful. And if I win, I just always say it's the icing on the cake. It's like the sun and the moon and the stars are shining on me that day. Because, when you get to a finals of something, everybody is great. And it could be anybody's day. So
we have a few other people saying hi. We have Carol Rollins saying hi, Lisa.
My old neighbor. Hi, Carol.
We have Ava Romero saying hi, is your cooking buddy, Ava. You are remarkable.
Thank you, Ava. She's great.
We got Lola J giving some weightlifting, keeping it strong.
Nice.
And you were involved with the World Food Championships for the last 6 years. Can you talk a little bit about what they are? I know Tiago mentioned them as well, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about what the World Food Championships are.
Well, they are amazing. It is a platform for home cooks and professional chefs from all over the world to come together and compete. And this year it was supposed to be in Dallas, but because of COVID, it's postponed to 2021, still in Dallas. And it's up to about 400 teams join in, and there's multiple categories, and you have to qualify. It's kind of like, we call it food sport. You have to qualify to participate, so which means you have to win something else. and to be able to join in. And it's kind of like a family reunion at this point after 6 years, because so many of us come together and compete against each other. It's a really fun competition. It's televised. It has catapulted winning chefs' careers, caterers, home cooks, and it's well worth looking into if you like competitions. Just really fun, really well done. And then they actually just had what's called the final table. It's kind of like an elimination tournament. And they just had the top 10 winners compete in Indianapolis and crowned the person who was number one, also a home cook named Lydia.
Nice.
So yeah, it's well worth, worldfoodchampionships.com. Go check it out. And if you like food competition, it's really fun to join in. And grand prize is $100,000. So
I'll buy a lot of food.
yeah, a lot of sous vide machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does a food competition work? I've never done one. So do you sign up for a category and then just cook whatever you want, or how do they narrow down what you should be doing?
Well, there's lots of different kinds of food competitions. For World Food Championships, you have to, present your original recipe in a contest. Like they'll sponsor something called the Taste of America. So you can enter your recipe, entering kind of your state, and there may be an ingredient that you have to use, say like red gold tomatoes, or a specific bacon, or there's a burger category. You might have to use, a specific Impossible burger, or some other kind of a meat. I'm usually competing in something called the recipe category, which is very broad. I won our local mushroom festival, which was a qualifying event for the World Food Championships. So different states have different qualifying events you can go to and actually go to a cook-off.
What was your mushroom dish?
It was a pasta dish. Yeah, we were actually required to use a brand of pasta made in Philadelphia, and then of course mushrooms. You had to use mushrooms. And my friend Rebecca Evans, she was the champion there, but she was already qualified for the World Food. So I was the next one in line, so I got the qualification. So
nice. That
was pretty great. So for World Food, that's the way you kind of can qualify for that. There's other contests where you just, right now I'm involved in one by Eggland's Best. And Eggland's Best Eggs put out some rules and regulations to enter their contest, and they chose winners by regions. And so I was a regional winner for the Northeast. And and that's more like an online, ongoing sort of, people have to go in and vote, and then they will narrow it down to finalists, and 5 finalists from 5 regions around the country. So that's sort of a different way of doing it. And then there's some contests you just, you submit your recipe and they choose you and give you a prize. So those are the easiest kind, I guess, really.
Nice.
You have to perform for anybody. But the cook-offs are super fun. I really love the cook-offs. And there's not that many of them. There used to be so many, but I think because of economic times, it's hard for companies to put out the money to do the cook-offs and make people travel all over the world. So,
yeah, especially right now, it's hard to get together to do events like that.
But the World Food Championships, that's the big game in town right now.
Nice. Yeah. That's very cool. Well, thanks for sharing some of that about the championships. I was really curious, and between you and Tiago both mentioned it, I wanted to dive into a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think Tiago can win the whole thing.
I love seeing his combinations of flavors and the cuisines, and it's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's very talented.
And it's not a competition, but Lisa will be joining some of our other chefs on Saturday at the Sous Vide Infusions Showcase. I'll post that in the comments at the isva.net/infusions showcase. So be sure to check that out. We had a few other people comment, and we had Maureen Halpin says, "Hi, Lisa. You are fabulous as always."
My sister-in-law.
Nice.
They're sort of biased, I think.
Tiago says he will try his best. I'm sure you will, Tiago. You will, I'm sure, impress. And if anyone listening has questions for Lisa, I'm about to go into the lightning round of a few different sous vide related ones. We'll dive in. But if you have questions for Lisa, be sure to drop them in the comments and I will ask her. So if you've been dying to know something about her, especially your family members that are on here, you want to ask the personal questions you never wanted to bring up at Thanksgiving. Now's your chance. We can air all of Lisa's dirty laundry for everyone listening. So one thing, I want to know one thing that you still prefer to do the old-fashioned way rather than making it sous vide. You explored sous videing it, you liked it, but you hated it, but you always like to do it the old-fashioned way still.
100% burgers. I definitely prefer burger on the grill. I tried the Juicy Lucy sous vide. It was good, but I just like my burger super thin and quickly grilled, I think, with all the toppings, of course.
I feel like that's one of the caveats for a lot of the things that some people like and don't like is what type of burger do you like? And if you like one of those big, thick burgers, then I feel like sous vide is amazing for it. And like Mike's pictures of his burgers, they're always like this giant on a bun that you could never fit your mouth in. But if you're doing one of those thin, like smash burgers, like, get that thing crispy as you can. And you don't need to sous vide it normally.
Exactly. That's what I prefer is a smash burger type with lots of caramelized onions.
Ooh, nice. I'm more of a mushroom man myself, but caramelized onions I would not turn down if they are available. What's something that you always use sous vide for now that you've learned how to use it?
Apple pie. Learned that from flour, sugar, butter.
Yeah, Paul and Chris.
Yeah, I'll never do it anything different because the apples come out perfect. And I can make the same apple pie over and over and over in the oven, and sometimes it's juicy and loose and sometimes it's thick, but you do it their way, it's wonderful.
My mom made that for us, I think maybe for Christmas last year or Thanksgiving, and it was great. She makes some really good pies, but that was very good as well.
The one thing I really love about it is that you can reduce the amount of sugar. I think I have like extra sweet taste buds or something, and the less sugar that you can use, for me, the better. And when you're cooking fruit, and again, like with the vegetables, you don't need as much sugar. And so I like that about that sous vide.
Nice. Ava says, can't wait to watch the Infusions Showcase. Martine says the World Food Championships is just like a family reunion. Glad that you two met there years ago.
Yeah.
And Rebecca has the important question of, when you come to visit soon, will you give her a private sous vide class?
Oh, absolutely. And my husband says yes, Rebecca. So I think it's going to happen.
Nice. Tiago says, what is the biggest food competition you would like to win and why?
What is the biggest food competition I'd like to win? Well, for me, Tiago, it's all the competitions are a challenge. And I think what I love about any competition is the challenge. And then if it's judged by real food people, not every competition is judged by real food people, but the ones that are judged by real food people, and they choose your recipe, it absolutely validates what I do. My experimentation, my trying to create something original. And that makes me feel so, so proud of myself. Um, so I don't know that there's absolutely one that, I mean, they're different every year. Of course, the World Food Championships is amazing and you win $100,000, and who wouldn't want to win that? But for me, it's not so much about winning, but about participating, being in it, and the challenge of that, and the reward that comes with feeling like you put your best self out there. And even if you don't win, but you feel really good about what you put out there, then that to me is a win. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
It was beautiful though, so I like it. Thiago better be content with that answer because it was great.
it really is the kind, like I said, it's just a cooking contest, right? There's so many other things in life that you want your good health and your family around you, and for me, there's nothing better than just having my family sit around the table and enjoying a good meal. So that is what makes me the happiest, is that.
I just had a little hiccup there. Sorry about that. If you're wondering why you were seeing double Jason,
Yeah.
no one needs to see that. Um, as cooks, none of us, taught ourselves everything that is out there. We're standing on the shoulders of people that came before us and that we've learned from and that taught us techniques. Who inspires you, and who do you look to for inspiration in your own cooking?
Well, I have to say that I'm inspired by probably the places I've been and the people I love most. Um, my mother actually wasn't a particularly great cook, but my dad was. My dad was a fantastic cook, and I think every time I am uh, cooking something, there's someone in my heart and my brain who's there with me, and it's probably someone like a grandmother or my dad, my mom, um, my children. I always just have someone sort of in mind, um, who's there with me, and the cooking kind of just calms me. It centers me. It is. I call it my positive coping skill, actually. And as far as who I've learned from, well, I am self-taught. I've never gone to culinary school or anything like that, but I have depended upon people like Chris Kimball and Cooks Illustrated and the Flavor Bible. I love that book. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research. And then when I have a question, there's somebody like you or Tiago out there who so kindly and generously will help me sort some sort of question out that I don't understand about sous vide or whatever it might be. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I know what I don't know, and I think it's just, and I learned that from being a physician assistant. You have somebody's life in your hands. If you don't know something, you better ask a question about how to help a person. So
A little bigger consequences than a souffle falling or burning some beans.
So I've always known what I don't know, and I've never been afraid to ask a question or ask for help. And I'm willing to, study and experiment. I always loved chemistry when I was in high school and college, and and read. You have to. It has to come from somewhere, right? It's some of us are intuitively maybe good cooks. That's not me. I have to work at it.
My mom wanted to know, have you tried making any frostings sous vide?
I have not done any frosting sous vide. Has she done any frosting sous vide? I might have to call her up.
I don't think that she has yet, but she's definitely curious about it because I've heard her mention it some before.
Frosting. Well, there are, certain frostings that you do cook. So, it's like a 7-minute frosting or something like that. I'll have to think about that one. See, she's giving me a challenge now.
Yes. She also says, do you have a go-to meringue topping for your pies? I know she struggled with that some.
Yeah, I like, an Italian, a cooked meringue. I prefer that. I don't just, whip up whites with sugar and throw it in the oven. I prefer cooked meringue, like Italian meringue or a Swiss buttercream kind of a meringue. So I definitely would do that.
Anything that makes my mom do even more pies is always a good thing in my book. Tiago says, when can we expect you to put out your own cookbook?
Well, Tiago, it's a daunting task to think about doing a cookbook. Now, Jason, I know you have done many. And I sort of do have one in my brain that I would like to do. It's something that would honor my father, he's always my biggest cheerleader. And my dad, my mom, they were super frugal people. My dad was first born here and grew up pretty poor. So super frugal and, lived through depression and all of that kind of stuff. He used to, so bread was important to my family. And always having fresh loaf of Italian bread on the table was important. My mom used to say, how can you eat without bread? But that Italian bread would only last a day because it had no preservatives in it, that kind of thing. But my father, he wouldn't waste it. He wouldn't throw it away. He would sit at the table with a box grater and grate that hard, stale bread into breadcrumbs. This is a long story now, I'm telling you. Or turn it into croutons for panzanella salad. It never went to waste. And there would be breadcrumbs flying all over the house all the time. My mom would be so trying to clean up after him because the bread was so brittle, it would crack and it would fly through the air. But so I always feel like that if I'm going to write a book, it's going to be like 100 ways to use leftover bread. That's going to be the book, basically, and dedicated to my dad, because we have so many great recipes that use stale bread, day-old bread. A lot of people throw it out to the birds and throw it in the trash, but it's so useful for so many things. So maybe someday, I don't know.
I feel like having stories like that as well is a great thing that you can put in cookbooks that really make it a lot more personable. And it's not this just list of recipes. It's adding nuance and character to books.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not something from my heart, it would never, ever work for me. I'm not just going to put out a cookbook because I have all these recipes from cooking contests or something. You can get all those on my blog if you want to.
Well, if you're ever interested in a cookbook, let me know. I'm working on self-publishing a cookbook class right now for my Making Bacon blog, and always happy to help people that I like working with move forward on things that they like to do.
You give me, food for thought for sure, because, having somebody, me, Jason, you carry me on your shoulders a little bit. So
you help all of us just as much as we help you,
especially with technical things, right?
Some people I tell that they could do the design themselves. I think in your case, I would hire someone to worry about all the technical aspects of the book for you.
Right.
No offense, of course.
No, I get it. I mean, all I really like to do is develop recipes. So the rest is, for somebody else for sure.
Carrie Crandall says, "Hi, Lisa. It's Carrie Crandall."
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for dropping in.
If anyone else has any questions for Lisa, drop them in. We have a few more to go, but definitely ask anything you want, and we will run them by her. I'm curious about what project are you working on now that's exciting for you?
Well, right now I am working on recipes for World Food Championships, even though it's been delayed a year. It's something that takes time to develop. So I'm working on those, and there's always a sort of a competition happening. So I'm working working on recipe development all the time. What else might be working on? Well, I think we are going to be working on some meat products for sous vide and developing recipes for that together.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
I know, I'm looking forward to that.
Like
And
Liberty Delight Farms Culinary Showcase, I think, coming up in a
I'm
month or
excited.
so.
I am excited about that. So that'll be fun. And I guess that's it for now. I'm looking forward to Saturday and talking about infusions with you.
Yeah, this should be a blast.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your expertise, taking time out of your busy recipe development and contest butt kicking ways to spend an hour hanging out with us and sharing some of your expertise and some of the great stories of the things that you've done.
Well, it's been fun. I've enjoyed talking with you, and thanks to everybody who listened in.
It's always great having some viewers here asking questions and saying hi and letting us know that you are there. It's why we do this show, is for all of you that are listening. And Lisa, once again, thank you for coming on. And this has been Exploring Sous Vide. We're all about helping you get the most out of your sous vide machine while talking to some of the biggest names in the industry. Until next time, I'm Jason Logston.
Bye.